Bam, and we're live. Okay. So I think tonight the topic will be very clear for those of you who will have seen the thumbnail or the background of where we're talking right now, right?
Yeah, I don't think you're hiding it real well.
Yeah. Tonight we will be discussing, Jason and I, our mutual love for Nintendo. Now, because I don't know if everyone here is of the same age as we are. Some are older. Most of you might be older. Some might be younger. But Jason and I were both born in the same year, and we grew up with the same shit. And one of those things that we loved the most that shaped our childhood was our love for Nintendo. I remember the first time I ever got my first Nintendo Entertainment System was on Christmas Day of when I was 7 years old in 1987.
Mm-hmm.
I remember waking up in the morning, unwrapping my gift, the Christmas card on it. Oddly, I noticed the handwriting was very similar to my dad's. I was like, God damn, Santa Claus writes exactly like my dad. So I
It's a
unopened
coincidence, really.
And the reason why before I go any further, actually, Jason, you've heard like near-death experience stories, right? Where they talk about the
Of
life
course.
review, and it's essentially like a highlight reel of your life, right? When you're over on the other side. And they show you all the good moments, the bad moments, all the happy moments, throughout each period. I guarantee the day I opened my Nintendo for the very first time in 1987 will be on that highlight reel. Okay. It was one of those moments where it was probably one of the happiest moments a kid could ever have. I remember I opened it. It came with the light gun. It came with the cartridge that was a 2-in-1. It was the original Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt on the same cartridge.
Yes. 100%.
Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And that was the first game I ever got. I remember the second game I ever got was Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Never played Zelda 1.
Oh, I loved that one. That was my favorite.
Because I thought, at the store as a kid, I'm like, but this one's Zelda 2. And it's all spray painted gold. This one's got to be special. And I played that game a lot. I tried very hard at that game, but I never beat it because it was hard as shit. Those games were really fucking hard back then.
Yes, so they were.
They were, some of them were torture sessions.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to leave the floor to you, Jason. Tell me about your initial introduction into Nintendo fandom.
So, again, we're about the same age. So you remember the Pizza Hut of the day, right? They had the tabletop where you had the original Super Mario Brothers, and then you had like Galaga. Or maybe it was Donkey Kong and Galaga.
I remember those. Those tabletop ones.
Yeah, the tabletop. Actually, I saw some at a movie theater in Austin. I was San Antonio. I was visiting almost 10 years ago now, and we took a little vacation, like the last vacation I actually took. Kids were younger, went to San Antonio, and they had them there. I was thrilled. So that's probably my actual introduction to Nintendo fandom, was that tabletop game with the original Donkey Kong and Mario Brothers and that kind of thing. But I think I got actually our Nintendo system, the old Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES, same year, actually, 1987. I think it was for my birthday, but it was understood that it was a family thing. It's like, yes, this is your birthday, this is your present, but everyone gets to play this thing, right? I had a couple neighbor kids who were older. We would go, we'd play on their system, but this was mine.
Let me shut my dog up.
Yeah, go for it. I'll just sit here. Oh, I showed him this before the show. Hold on. I discovered this in a box. This is still slightly on topic. This was not a Nintendo game. This is from Wing Commander, the first Wing Commander. This is the one I had as a kid. This was sort of like the instruction manual and the
I love that
onboard. Yeah, I mean, this is old school computer, VGA graphics.
Oh yeah,
VGA. This was my favorite game, straight up. My favorite game as a kid,
which was also ported onto Super Nintendo.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it did make it
Yeah,
onto the Super Nintendo.
it did make it onto Super Nintendo.
My parents would not buy me that one because I had the computer version, which is fine. I preferred this anyway. But okay, real quick, and then we'll get back to the NES. My favorite Kilrathi ships, the Jalthi. That thing was
I
hard
remember
as
those
crap to
things.
kill.
They were hard as hell.
Yeah, I love the design of them,
Mm-hmm.
but I hated. Yeah, you hated flying against them because that's they just light you up. But then my other favorite one is the Dralthi.
Those were like the basic ones. Yeah.
Well, so there was another basic one, which is this one, the salty. Like this was easy.
Oh yeah,
like
the
these
salties. Those were like the basic ones. Those were like
this
the
was
cannon fodder ones.
Yeah, these were cannon fodder. This
Yeah.
was like the next step up. But I loved blowing these things out of the sky. They were my favorite.
They look so cool.
They did. Like I'm sorry, but Wing Commander had some of my favorite designs for spaceships. Now again, don't get me wrong. The best designed starfighter and we can talk about this later. Babylon 5's Star Furies. That is the best design of any starfighter ever in the history of the world. But this had some really nice looking ships. Anyway, back to NES.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like I said, it was like my birthday, but it was like a family thing. I had Mario, I had Duck Hunt. They were again same thing. We're at the same cartridge. Kung Fu.
Oh,
do you remember that game?
I remember that one.
Loved that game. Like, don't get me wrong. Mario was always in. Duck Hunt because you had the zapper. Hated that freaking dog. But dude, I played the crap out of Kung Fu. Where you just white gi, black belt and black shoes, and you're just high kicking people and punching people. It is the dumbest thing ever, but I loved it. I loved that game much.
Do you know what was my Kung Fu? One of the first games I got after I got my first Nintendo. My first actual fighting type of game, Double Dragon.
Yes,
dude, I played the shit out of some Double Dragon, man.
Yes,
and then Double Dragon 2, and then 3 comes out. Remember in the beginning where they just walk up to your girlfriend and they just punch her in the gut and carry her off, and you're like, "Oh, it's on, baby!
It's on now." This is not going well. It's like I'm taking somebody with Oh, I love that game. Kung Fu, like I said, I played the crap out of that, but then, like you said, Double Dragon came around. That's a mind blowing experience. But you know what? The original Castlevania, friggin' brilliant. The original Metroid. Do you remember the moment you felt when you beat Metroid, or actually your older friend beat Metroid, and you got to see the end, the actual?
Oh yeah, and everyone's all freaked out
because you find out that Samus is a girl. Yeah, dude, I love how everyone's like, well, what was her name? The chick from the Hunger Games. She was the new Mystique in the new movies. Anyway, whatever her name is, right? She was somehow, until the Hunger Games, people were scared to make action movies with women in it, and I'm like, friggin' Ripley, like what, like the Alien franchises, you can name a dozen, but I'm like, what are you talking about? Late 80s, you had Samus Aran from Metroid. What are you talking about? That was the whole point. Like,
that was the whole point.
Like, shut your pie hole. Anyway, but yeah, Samus Aran, you find out that the character you've been playing the entire time is a chick. I don't know anyone who was mad about that. Everyone's like, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, everyone thought that was cool as hell.
Yeah. But you know my very favorite game of the entire system? Again, I love me some Link. I love me some Legend of Zelda. All of that. Everything you're going to name, I love. Mega Man, the original Mega Man. But my favorite game, Rygar.
Oh, I remember Rygar.
Yes, the flaming shield.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. It was the cheesiest thing ever, but I loved it. Like, again, Kid Icarus was always awesome.
Kid Icarus was good.
Like, there was a bunch of really great games, but Rygar was my freaking
That's
jam.
the one that did it for you. Huh.
Yes. Straight up just barbarian flaming shield, I mean, all those things. Yeah, I love that game. Rygar. I loved that game.
So these games that you mentioned, like Rygar and Mega Man and All of these games like Kung Fu. Which of these games did you actually beat?
Okay, the ones I actually beat. Okay, the original Mario Brothers. Well, all the Mario Brothers games that came out in NES, I beat. I did beat Kung Fu. I don't think I ever beat Duck Hunt. Can you actually beat Duck Hunt?
There's no end to Duck Hunt. You can't beat it.
That's what I thought. Like, you can't actually beat it.
You can't beat it.
I did not beat the Ninja Turtles game.
No, that was
because you can't.
Okay, let's talk about the first Ninja Turtles game. Okay,
yeah, the very first one.
That game was fucked up. It was because it was meant to torture kids.
Mm-hmm.
Because for those of you who don't know, I mean, obviously we all know the Ninja Turtles, and the first Ninja Turtles game came out at the height of Ninja Turtles craze. Yep. So we as kids, I remember first time I popped in Ninja Turtles, man, my little 8 or 9-year-old brain was just all over the place. Like, I can't believe I'm actually going to play as Ninja Turtles, right? So I always go straight to my favorite Ninja Turtle, who was Michelangelo.
Of course.
And although when you play the game, it's abundantly obvious who the best turtle is, and that's Donatello, because he's got that bow staff that's stretches like half the screen.
Yes. Okay. So straight up, here's the fun. Okay, complete deviation, but we're never going to stay on topic on this show. Definitely not when I'm around. So you've heard the theory that all 4 turtles represent the 4 primary Greek personality types, right? You're Michelangelo. I'm Donatello. That's my favorite. That's my favorite. Always my favorite character from the Ninja Turtles. So completely true. You want to know someone? Ask them who their favorite Ninja Turtle is. Straight up. But yes, as far as the game is concerned, Donatello was the best. You know what's funny? I didn't realize it until older. When you first got the game, did you wonder why all their bandanas were red at first when you were a kid and you first got it?
At first, but I quickly realized that in the comic books they were all red, right?
Yes, in the original Mirage. Yeah, that's the thing, is the game from because of a licensing issue or for licensing issues, it was based on the comic book, the Mirage comic. Now, I got introduced later in the early 90s because of my favorite comic book store. Like, it was my favorite place. The dude was literally survived being a POW. Not a POW. He was in the concentration camps. He was Polish. He was in Krakow. Tattoo, whole 9 yards. But he worked for Lockheed Martin when he and Lay's actually. But anyway, he owned a comic book store. That's when I discovered the Mirage comics. Yeah. So it wasn't until later that I realized, oh, the original comics, they're bandanas. But yeah, dude, that you can't beat that game. I did beat, again, obviously,
it's unbeatable.
Eventually beat Metro. It's unbeatable. You can't beat it.
It's that one part where you're swimming and you're trying to defuse the bombs and there are those electrified seaweeds. It's like, why did you make this? You're just here to torture kids?
Yeah, this is not for children.
Yeah.
Like, that's how you should train. The original one. I can't remember.
Was it Konami?
I think it was Konami, wasn't it?
I gotta look it up right now.
Speaking of Konami, Contra.
That was another one.
Dude, I did beat that one. I loved that game too. I mean, all these games were great. The thing that made these games great, like, you had an easy mode, you had a medium, and you had a hard, right? But they were like, the thing, dirty little secret now, all of these games that have hard modes, all these newer games, the AI in the game learns your skills and actually tailors it so that it allows you to win. It doesn't matter what setting you set it on. It nerfs the game no matter what you're doing so that you win. Those games, you set that thing on hard, it didn't care. It couldn't care at all. It's like, fine, you set this on hard.
The NES games were all red. They were preset to hard. That's the only choice that you had.
Yes. Some were preset. Like, there was, like, you didn't have an option on some of these games. But some of them you had an easy mode, a medium mode, and a hard mode. And it didn't matter. But the point is, the game was the game. Like, it's like you beat it or we didn't care. Like, they're like, we're not going to make this easier on you. You want to do an easy? You want to admit up front that you're a loser? Fine. Or that you're a little kid? Go ahead and set it to easy mode. Otherwise, you roll with the big dogs. You beat this
Mm-hmm.
game or you don't beat this game, but that's it. Konami was king at that crap. Where it's like, if you're just gonna, you want to win it, earn it, and my friend had you remember the old Nintendo Power magazines where you could order stuff, right? My friend, a kid I grew up with, still know him, had a thing, had stickers that I Saved the Princess that he ordered from Nintendo Power. Dude, I was so jealous of that stupid thing as a kid. I'm like, I beat that damn game. I need one of those. They're like, we're not paying $3 for a sticker. That's how I grew up. Because again, son of a mechanic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not saying we were poor. I'm just saying we're not paying $3 for a sticker. I did, however, join the original Super Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fan club with my own money through the Mirage comic thing. My own money. I sent that in. They let me do that. But yeah, like those games, man, straight up, you want to roll with the big dogs, roll with the big dogs. You want to set on easy mode, set it on. If it had an easy mode, you can set it on easy mode.
Yep.
Other than that, you roll with it. None of this modern AI crap where it's like, okay, you suck at this game. We're going to find a way to make it, to nerf it in the background so you don't realize we're having to nerf it for you.
Yeah, that's the difference with modern games. With modern games, you're pretty much guaranteed that as long as you put like a decent amount of effort, you're going to walk away watching having seen the credits.
Yeah.
With those old school Nintendo games, those old school Nintendo games, there was no guarantee. You could be, as a kid, you could get this game that you love, play it for hours a day, every day, and you're still not guaranteed that you'll ever beat the game. Best example of this, the most classic example of this was Ninja Gaiden.
Oh, yeah.
Every kid had Ninja Gaiden. Every kid loved Ninja Gaiden. They played the shit out of it. None of my friends ever fucking beat it. I never fucking beat it.
No,
that game was impossible.
Ninja Gaiden was impossible. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was impossible. I never beat Metroid. My neighbor who was older, beat Metroid. I did beat Contra.
With the code.
Heck yes, I used the code.
Yeah, you can't beat Contra without the code. You got to be like one of those professional speedrunners, like having memorized like every little pixel of the game to beat it without the code.
Yes, straight up. You had to have the cheat code to do that. So yeah, okay, as I just said, right? You won or you didn't. There were cheat codes, but there was one cheat code. And it's like everyone had to know it. It was, again, it's become that sort of running gag in a lot of movies, is the Contra cheat code. But the simple fact of the matter is, like you said, Contra you couldn't beat it without that cheat code. It was impossible, unless, like you said, you're one of those people who didn't have a life, like at all, and you were older. If you were a kid, you wouldn't beat it without the cheat code. Obviously, you can't beat Duck Hunt, I don't think. That's a great question. Can you beat Duck? I don't think you can.
No, it's endless.
It never.
Just keeps
it's
going.
an endless game. Yeah. That's what I thought. Like I said, I've already beat all of the. You know what game I never beat and I really wanted to? I think they had it on NES at some point. Was the original Galaga. I love that game more than anything else. It's my favorite game in the world. Still is, like, straight up. Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't know if I'd never beat it, so I just sort of assumed I just never beat it. Maybe it doesn't have an ending.
Did you like playing those Did you like playing those shoot 'em ups like R-Type and those kinds of games? Those side-scrolling like shooters where it's like a whole bunch of shit flying around on the screen and.
Yeah. That was not my favorite. Like I said, I preferred the old school platformers like Mega Man, Super Mario Brothers. Those were sort of my favorite. But I did, like I said, I love me some Link. But I love Galaga. So I think it was like 1940. Was it 1946 or 1942 or 1942? Whatever.
Oh, I remember those. Yeah.
And so here's the thing. Yes, but I prefer that version of it, like the shooter, like, because that's what that is. It's just a shooter.
Yeah.
I like that version of the shooter. when you're, I love flying games a lot. Again, I think we've already talked about this. The original Rogue Squadron from
Oh, did
from
you ever play the
dude, I
original
love
Top
that.
Gun?
Yes,
Oh, do you
yes,
remember
I
they had
did.
the Airwolf game? Do you remember
Yes, I
the
did.
Airwolf game?
I remember the Airwolf game. I never got it. I never
Yo, that game was kind of dope.
really was it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was kind of dope.
I never played it.
Oh
Never
man,
got a
yeah, those
chance
are
to.
some fun. I can't believe they had games like that on the original Nintendo, where it's like a flight simulator.
Oh yeah. Favorite flight. Okay, not Nintendo. My favorite flight simulator was an A10. It was an A10 Warthog. It was played on the computer, but that's what you were playing. Like, it was just old school graphics, but you were in an A10 Warthog, which is my favorite jet of all time. It's, if you don't know what the A10, I imagine most of our people watching this know what an A10 Warthog is. That is, I seriously, when I was considering joining the army before I found out I was ineligible for combat, that's what I wanted to do. I'm like, you know what? Could I was trying to find, obviously glasses probably meant I wouldn't be able to fly it. But I really seriously considered joining the military just to fly the A-10 Warthog. It's my favorite thing in the
So
world.
you were thinking of wanting to be like a pilot.
Well, so here's the thing. Yes, the A-10 Warthog, you are flying, you are technically a pilot, but you are not a fighter pilot.
Yeah.
Like, I could be a bomber pilot if it's like, hey, you got to fly something. The thing about the A-10 is you fly low, you fly slow, right? You are very deliberate about it. It is a gun with wings. That's what it is. The entire plane is built around the gun. It is the A-10 Warthog is everything a plane should not be, but it is still the most effective attack craft that we've ever created. It's a tank killer. That's what it's designed to do. It does it really damn well. And they keep every 10 years, someone rolls out something like, this is going to replace the A-10 Warthog. They tested it and was like, yeah, it's not as good. This thing has been around for decades.
I thought they used like Apache helicopters for that.
It depends on what you're trying to do. Right? It's just like anything else. It depends. Again, at some point the A-10 will be obsolete. It just hasn't ever become obsolete yet. Like, there are planes that have come and gone, and the A-10's still there, and it's still in its prime.
Now, as a Wing Commander fan,
yes,
right? Did you? I remember the same company that came out with Wing Commander Origin. They released this game where it was from the same makers of Wing Commander, and it was a flight simulator, but it took place in like modern times. It was called Strike Commander.
I remember it. I don't remember playing it.
Oh, that one was good, man. It was like it was just Wing Commander, but it was like a modern American military with modern jets. But it was with the same Wing Commander like storytelling. This was like right between Wing Commander 2 and like Privateer. Oh man, Jason, you missed out. That was such a good one, man.
That sounds like, I would have loved that one.
And it would, but it would use like modern like missile types, right? Like heat-seeking missiles and. Oh man, that was a good one. Like, you had guns, but you had to actually like care about your ammo. And I was like, Wing Commander, you don't care about ammo? What is this?
Exactly. Well, you do. You don't have to. You have to let it decharge because it would recharge, right? And so you did have to care, and you did have to switch. So okay, but again, I know it's not the NES, but no, it did show up on NES. But yeah, the Wing Commander thing, right, is your shields could charge, or some of your shields could charge, not all of them. Some of them could recharge. Your guns would charge, but your different guns were depleted at different rates. And so you could switch, how many, but if you had multiple types of guns, like your mass drivers, which hit hard, but they sucked power like nothing.
Yeah.
You could switch, you'd have to, depending on what you were doing, you'd switch between your weapons, and you'd have to, depending, because I mean, sometimes if you ran out of juice, you were out of juice, and you had to let it rebuild before you could fire again. So yeah, you did care about, but you're right. It wasn't like, hey, you've got this much ammo and you're done.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
I do appreciate that kind of limitation where you're like, nope, you're done. You're out of guns.
There'll be missions in Strike Commander where you just like, oh, I guess I ran out of bullets. I guess I just got to go back home and turn around and go back to base.
That's
Yeah.
cool. I like.
Um,
Again, I like the thing, but it goes back to the idea, right? These old school games, they weren't going to nerf it for you. You
no,
won fair and square, or you didn't.
or you didn't. And it wasn't always guaranteed. In fact,
Nope.
of all the games that I've owned on those old
Mhm.
systems or that I've played, most of them I didn't beat.
Yeah.
Especially
Oh
when
yeah.
you're like swapping and trading games with your friends, or like remember back then you
Yes.
could like rent a game from like Blockbuster or the video store,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah, but there was
Mhm.
no way in hell you were beating that game.
No, you
Not
weren't.
in a weekend. No.
Mm-mm.
You rent
Nope.
the original Ninja Turtles, you ain't never beating that game. Sorry.
No. Yeah. No. Straight up, you could. Oh, the joy of playing a game and then being like, I gotta take it back on Monday. I gotta take it back on Sunday night because you got school the next day. And even when I was homeschooled, like it's like, yeah, it's a school day. You don't get to have, you don't
Mhm.
play your games until everything's done. But I wasn't homeschooled until much later. I was like middle school because again I was testing well above my grades. I was basically not paying attention in class because it was public schools dumbed down even back then.
Mm.
Just not what it is now. Um, so yeah, I mean, yeah, but you get that weekend, you just get that new game, and then you'd go back and you're like, I gotta try again, and you'd rent it, and your parents would be like, but you already played the games. I haven't, but I haven't beaten it yet. What am I supposed to do? Not play the game? Then you discover girls, and then it changes a little bit. But
Yeah, girls does change things up.
yeah,
Yeah.
um, comics didn't change my love.
Well, I
My
mean,
pen
girls
has
didn't
run
really
away from
change
me,
my love of video games. Like I remember
but it did
because I
change
was
the priority.
yeah, but I think that, but then I was like, wait, which game was I playing when I was going through like puberty and discovering liking girls for the first time? I was like, oh, wait a minute, that's what the same time I discovered Wing Commander. So I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, video games were still a priority back then.
Oh yeah. Oh, dude,
Yeah.
like Friday and Saturday nights were literally the party was at my house, right?
Hmm.
Again, this happened later, right when we were all driving and stuff, but like party like that, we'd watch Mystery Science Theater 3000, and or we would have GoldenEye tournaments.
Oh,
I'd
a
make
lot
I'd
of
make
people did that.
queso. Yeah, I'd make queso. I'd make popcorn. Again, on the stove, the way God intended, with Savor all popping
Did
oil.
you have any rules like no odd job?
No, you
No.
don't. There were no rules.
Oh,
You
you guys
went
play like
in,
that.
we played like that.
Hmm.
I don't care. You get odd job, you get odd job. I'm still going to take you out. It was the only, if you could do it, it was fair game.
Hmm.
Period. End of story. We were cutthroat, man. Yeah. No.
So you
I
were
don't
pretty.
have
Oh,
rules like
okay.
that.
You were a GoldenEye player, huh?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Everyone loved
Again,
them.
it's definitely after the period we're talking about, but yeah. Oh no, dude,
Okay, how
we
about
were
this?
ruthless,
In
ruthless.
original Nintendo, what was your favorite sports game?
Oh geez.
There were so
You know
many
what?
good ones. There were so many good ones.
There were a lot of good ones, but here's the thing: I was never into the sports games. Just never was. But you're right. There were a lot of
There were
good
so
sports
I wasn't
games.
even all that into sports, but I still love those
Mhm.
games, man. Double Dribble, ice hockey, Blades of
Never mind.
Steel.
Double Dribble. You're right. Never mind. I did like that game. It was,
That
and
was a
I didn't
fun
own it. A
game,
friend of
man.
mine owned it, but we would play that at his house. Yeah,
Tecmo
I
Bowl.
didn't.
You didn't play
Okay,
Tecmo Bowl?
I just didn't care. It wasn't my thing. I did love Double Dribble though. That was good.
And there was this one real fun baseball game. I don't remember the name, but it was from SNK.
I think I know which one you're talking about, but
Yeah.
like I said, the sports games were never my favorite. I like the side scrollers. I think my thing is, and it's with all my entertainment, right? I don't want to do something I can do on a Tuesday, right?
Mhm.
Like why would I play a football game when my friends and I can go out into the field behind my friend's house and all come home beat to crap with nosebleeds because we were just just tearing each other apart in a game of football that we played.
Hmm.
Right. So like that's my only thing with sports. Like I don't look like a sports player. I'm not a sports player at this point. I'm old and I've hurt myself too much. But I would rather play the game than watch the game be played. Like that's why I can't really sit down and watch sports. I'd rather play it. The only way I can watch baseball is actually at the freaking stadium, but then it's more like conversation with hot dogs.
What about Mike Tyson's Punch Out?
Okay, that's different. Mike Tyson's Punch Out is a different story.
You played that one quite a bit, huh?
Hell yeah, I did. Just like everyone else did. Dude.
You ever beat it?
Yeah. Hold on. Did I beat it or was it my neighbor who beat it? One of us, actually, I don't know if I'm the one who beat it. I can't remember, but one of us beat it. We did beat that game.
You beat Mike Tyson?
I did it. Yes, we did.
I remember
one of
the
us
first
did.
time
I can't remember if it was me or my neighbor, but one of us did.
I remember the first time I ever fought Mike Tyson in that game. It was a hard climb.
That was nuts.
that Soda Popinski guy got me all sweaty and shit, right? And then you finally, what was that? That was his name, right? Soda Popinski, the Soda Pop guy.
So, yeah, I think that
that guy was hard when I first
plus years ago.
That was a stressful last game, man.
It was. No, it absolutely was. Okay, the Hippo, King Hippo or something.
You figure his shit out pretty easily though, like
doesn't mean I didn't like playing it. Like,
but if you didn't figure out his pattern, he would just tear you apart.
Yeah, he'd beat the ever loving crap out of you. So going back to the idea of these things were pattern based, right? You had to figure out the pattern. Essentially, the trick to all of the old games is they're puzzles.
Yeah,
all of them. All the old games were puzzles, and you had to figure out timing, order, the whole 9 yards. Like Galaga, if you can figure out where exactly to be and exactly when to fire, you can take everything, all of your enemies out on one go. Because they're going to come in a specific pattern. It's going to switch around. If you miss one, you can move right, hit them. But it's all about timing. It's about precision. It's about finding that pattern. You don't really have that in the modern games, right? They're very, very different. But those old games, they're all puzzles, which is why I think the old school games, right? The argument was it was hand-eye coordination, and it did make you smarter. These new games, I don't think make you smarter. They don't, because they don't. I'm sorry, Doom does not. You don't have to be smart to win it. To win Doom.
That's a bad example because Doom is actually one of the few modern games that are actually like hard. Like, this is like old school game level hards. That was a bad example, but I know what you mean.
Okay,
I know what you mean.
But yeah, you get my point, right? Yeah. A lot of these newer games, you don't really have to be. Now that being said, I've seen my son play Fortnite or not Fortnite. What is it? It's the. I'm gonna say this as vague as possible. You'll be like, that's like literally 1,000 games. It's the one where it's the multiplayer game. You're playing against another group. You all have superpowers.
Overwatch?
Overwatch, that's it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of strategy that, like, I've seen him bring some really interesting strategies to Overwatch, which
it's competitive.
And it's very competitive.
Yeah, you go into that game not knowing what you're doing, you're going to get smoked. Yeah,
you're going to get smoked hard. But here's the thing. The game itself does not make you smart. And what's funny is a lot of these, like a lot of kids my son's age, you know what they've discovered? Which I raised them on? Chess. They've there are whole channels of these kids discovering chess and being like, my son's using terms I've never heard before, like en passant. And I'm like, that, like, you are making this up. He's like, no, it's called the en passant. It's one specific move.
Oh, they're competitive like that.
Yes. Dude, it's not like that. Okay, so quick update. My son was one of the, for Overwatch, is one of the best Genji players in the world. Professional teams were looking at him when he was 16.
Wow.
Now he couldn't play professionally because he was 16, but people were looking at him.
He was pro level good.
Yeah. I mean, he's done a lot of stream. He's got a little bit of a thing in there, but like a lot of us, right? You find out you're good, and you're really good, but you're not that good. You're not necessarily that good, right? To have a professional career. There's always that one little thing that you miss.
Hey, I lived through the exact same thing myself when I was 20 years old, playing nationally in competitive Tekken.
Yep.
until you come across the people who are actually the best in the world, and you're like, oh fuck, I'm not even close to this guy.
Yeah. You find it's like, okay, again, a little bit behind the scenes. I don't look it. I'm trying to get back into it, but I was mixed martial arts before mixed martial arts was cool. Like before it was a thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Back when Ultimate Fighting Championship was still just people doing different things. My form of Taekwondo was Otakwan. It was a blend of Otakwan and Judokwan, so it was already blended. But we threw in Hapkido, and I learned some Muay Thai to really
The way you pronounce that word hurt my heart, Jason McLean.
I'm glad.
I'll just gotta let you know that.
I know.
That
And
hurt my heart.
hey, I've always said I'm a Texan. I've never pronounced anything correctly in my life.
But I'm a Korean, and you just used the Korean word, and you pronounced it like that, man. It hurts my heart. That one really stung a little. I just thought I should share that with you.
Would you like which word would you like me to repronounce correctly?
Okay, you have to pronounce it like hop, H-O-P. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Just Hapkido.
Hapkido.
Yeah.
There you go.
There's no ass sound in Korean.
Okay,
in
that's
fact,
fair.
Koreans people have a very difficult time saying like any words with like an a.
Really?
They always have to say like an ah. Yeah. They can say EH.
Yeah.
So like if you say CAT cat, they would either say cat or cot, but cat they have a hard time with.
Okay, you know what? Now that you say that, yeah, you're right. I've never actually heard them say any of my Korean. Well, okay, so the Korean friends I typically had were born in the U.S., so they could, but like their parents or like when I'd go to my favorite Korean grocers. Yeah, you're right. I've never heard them say cat. Yeah, you're right. And that it's like I'm having to think about it. Yeah, you're right. Never mind. Yeah. All right, that makes sense. But anyway, so I was fairly good. Like again, not great. Never wanted to be great, but I learned I could handle myself. I was decent. But like you said, then you get into you get in one of those fights with someone who knows what they're doing. You're like, well, son of like. So one of the guys I used to train with, he was a former linebacker for the Dallas Cowboys. You got hit. Like you pissed me off. I went up for I had him dead to rights. So, but because he was so much taller than I was, I came up for a roundhouse. Like I took everything I had, and I was going to put this roundhouse right there in the side of his face, and I mean, just take him down. Right, it was going to be beautiful. But I had to begin because again, I was like kicking up. Right, so this dude's like 6'3". I'm putting my foot right here upside the head, and like my toes would have wrapped around the back of his skull. That's how hard I was going to get him. Son of a gun moves out, like he does this weird thing, and like I almost touch his nose. Like he moved that way just that fast.
He slipped it just in time.
Yeah, but it literally lifted me. The kick actually lifted me. It wasn't a jump kick. It lifted me off the ground, and I just went straight down. He's like, I'm glad they didn't hit. And I'm like, you son of a. But yeah, like I was good, but I wasn't that good. And but a lot of the guys that we were training with were actual professional kickboxers. Like they did that. So I got good. But when you fight someone who's really who is a professional level good, you realize, there's that one thing. The one thing that I've learned that drives people, whether it's, again, you're anything competitive, right? If you want to be a professional grade, your entire identity has to be proving yourself to be good. Like you have to have that fire. It's like where it's like I've got to prove. The problem is I've never had the need to prove myself here. I'm like, that's not who or what I am. And of course, I eventually got out of it because I realized it was a very hard style. I had anger issues, and that was not helping my situation. But yeah,
you should have learned Tai Chi.
You know what? I keep thinking about it. I really do. As something that's a little bit easier on my joints. Because I'm I am paying. So I did again. Discovered martial arts very, very young. So again, I still love the video games and all that. But like I would used to work the bags until my knuckles bled, like on the canvas. Like that pissed me off when they went to that soft, that sort of more rubberized material, because I couldn't make my knuckles bleed on that. Right. But like the canvas, like I made my knuckles bleed on that hitting it. Loved it. You know, I built up some solid, calluses. I used to do push-ups on my knuckles, right? That's how hardcore I was. But where was I going with that? Like, but the thing is, you just find out
the idea of like, someone being like way better than you, and
right, exactly. It's like the thing that drove me was not. I just had fun with it. I enjoyed it. I didn't have the need to prove myself in that realm. And that's what those people have. Like the people who are in that, if you see them, like those people, their lives are, I have to show that I am the best in that ring, right? It's the same thing with professional video game players. Like if you, like those people who are there, it's like their identity is, I have to show you. They have that need to show that they are the best in that field, just period. They have to leave. Like that's their, I don't have that, right? Maybe it's because I'm more emotionally stable for someone who's in the paranormal.
Well, I mean, even going back to the Nintendo topic, right? There are certain feats that if you think, if I were to present them to you, like, okay, for example, beating any Ninja Gaiden, the first one, second one, or third, because the second one and third one are actually even harder. Beating those games without dying once or without getting hit once. Anyone who can do that is a freaking god, in my opinion. Well, it's one of those things. There's probably only like 2 people in the world who could do that.
Right. No, precisely. We were talking about not just the best of the best. We're talking about the best of the best of the best. But the thing is, the people who can do that, I think it's not just like that's a combination of skill, mental acuity that is just off the charts, right? But I think it also, I think there's that one other thing. This is what I'm talking about, that drive, right? Like there's something serious. I have to say this, probably pretty broken about their psyche to be that good, right? If you're gonna, like, you've got to, like, again, you talk to some of these people, you're like, you got some issues here, dude. Like, don't get me wrong, good guy probably. But a lot of these people I've spoken with who do these amazing, like you said, who do these, you realize some of those screws are not placed correctly, are there? Like there's some deep psychological need to do that. But yeah, you're right. Like but again, it goes back to these old NES games. They didn't care.
See, no, right? I think the old NES games were even worse than that, actually, now that I think about it. Because some of these NES games, the reason why you couldn't beat the game wasn't because of a lack of skill. It was because you simply didn't know where the fucking item was to proceed to the next part.
Yes. Okay, so
and then when you find out where it is, you're like, how in the hell was I supposed to even know that? Just playing it.
So yeah, it wasn't my mom, but one of my neighbors' friend's mom says, like, how do you beat any of these games without the cheat codes and or the books that you have to buy, where it's like, hey, by the way, there's this secret thing over here. Like you said, if you didn't buy a book or had,
you would have no way of knowing.
Yeah. Okay, so hold on. Now that I think about it, my 40 soon to be 43-year-old brain, we were getting scammed.
We were.
Because you had to buy that damn book. You had to buy the magazine, and they would have all the things. It's like, this is what you need on this level.
Do you remember that one? Do you remember that one part in Castlevania 2 where if you wanted to proceed, you had to like kneel at the exact right spot at like night or some shit, and then a tornado would come? Yes. And if you didn't read that in a book, there would have been no earthly way of you ever figuring that out.
No way to know that. No way to figure that crap out. Okay. On that same idea, it's not from the NES. There was an old game. It was an old computer game. It's called Hacker. Had no instruction manual. And the start was just a prompt. Like, I'm not kidding when I say this. The game, the start was a prompt. You had to hack your way into the game. I saw a comment that said, why is it that Gen X and millennials or specifically, why is Gen X better than millennials at technology? And these younger kids, why is it that Gen X is better at technology than these kids? Because You had crap like that. We had to remember running a defrag program. I remember the first time I'm like,
Yeah,
where's
I
the
remember
defrag
that.
program?
I remember that.
Like, I remember that was it's like I had to
That
run
was
that
the
thing all
thing.
the time.
That
Yeah,
was
you
the
had to
thing.
clean up your
Yeah.
computer.
Yeah, I
Remember
remember that.
DOS?
I
You had
remember DOS. Have to
you
type
had to go.
everything in.
Yeah, we had to. And again, some of these games, like again, they made you smarter because they were puzzle games. They didn't care if you couldn't figure it out. You had to buy the book. But like you
You had to buy
said,
the book, yeah.
they made you because you had to learn the pattern. You had to figure out. You had to figure out the timing. You had to learn all that. All this new technology is so smart. It's made us dumber.
Yeah.
In fact, I hate a lot of these newer versions of like Word and whatever because it's so user friendly. I find it's like using those safety scissors, right?
Hmm.
Because it's like there are things you could do with the original Word. Like I still own a copy of Word. I don't do the rent thing because
What was some things you could do with the original Word that you can't do now?
there was some formatting things that's it's harder to do now.
Hmm.
Again, it's I can't think of it off the top of my head, but I remember just looking like where's like just going through like what because you can do all these things, but it's like you can do all these things from a pre-selected selection of things, right? It's like I
Yeah.
want to do this. Old school, you could format the crap out of it. I did artwork in Word. I'm not kidding when I say that.
Oh, wow. Really?
Oh
Like
yeah.
doing like ASCII stuff?
Hmm.
Nice.
But I mean, I remember. Hold on, remember MS Paint?
I was about to bring that up. Yeah, I remember MS Paint.
I
And they would teach us
made
that in
some.
school.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
made some kick-ass artwork using MS Paint back in
Wasn't
the
there
day.
stuff you could animate with it too? Like you could do like
Um,
rudimentary animations like
yes, I never figured that part out.
hmm.
But yeah, but again, it's like someone was pointing out the issue with like the new pixel art is it's too clean. Like
Yeah,
a lot of the new pixel art, they're like, oh, we're going back and trying to rock it old. It's like, no, you're not rocking it old school because it's too clean.
it
The
is.
colors are too like it's not quite
It had
right.
to be done on a shitty ass like wooden TV, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wait, Jason, how much time you got left? Like 30 minutes before you gotta go? Give or take?
Yeah. Yeah, about that.
Okay, one last thing I wanted to bring up before we run
Mhm.
out of time. Do you remember the transition? Not the 16-bit era, but the transition. Because I'll tell you about my transition, okay?
Okay. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I've had my NES for a while now.
Yeah. Hmm.
One day, out of the blue, on TV, a certain commercial comes on for TurboGrafx 16,
Yes, I
and they're
remember that.
showing Bonks and Venture and Slaughterhouse, and I think like whatever 8 or 9 year old brain is just like, what the fuck is this 16-bit? And the commercial says the
Hmm.
Nintendo is only 8-bit, TurboGrafx
Yep.
16-bit. And I'm like, I need those extra bits. I don't know what those bits are or what they do, but I need that extra horsepower, baby. And
Uh-huh.
you're just like, look at these graphics. And meanwhile, the early 16-bit graphics were the main difference was just that the foreground would like scroll against the background,
Yes.
and the
Hmm.
NES games couldn't do that. So like the backgrounds moved around a little bit more. The
Yeah.
graphics, I guess, were a little cooler. But then one of my friends at church, he was like, he finally got a TurboGrafx 16, and I'm just like, oh man, I need to come over and play this. It's the future. And then not too long, but okay, so TurboGrafx was the jam until it was very short lived because then the
Hmm.
first Sega Genesis commercial comes out.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And
I was about to
then
say they lost to Sega.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and because it was Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis, they come out at the same like around the same time. But actually, when I was in that era, I actually went with the Sega Genesis.
Oh, okay. So I went
Because
SNES. Yeah.
yeah, I actually ultimately looking back, I regret that. I feel like I should have gone with the SNES,
Hmm.
but when they showed that first time I ever saw the Sonic commercial, and they showed like blast processing, and you see it go all
Hmm.
fast, and I'm like, holy shit, this is incredible,
Hmm.
right? So I went
Yeah.
with the Genesis.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I had neighbors who went Genesis. Like we went SNES, they went Genesis. So we go back and forth and play different games. Yeah, that first Sega, the first Sonic the Hedgehog game was nuts. I mean, that was just mind blowing.
But then again, the first time I laid my eyes on Super Mario World, and the first time I played that game, my mind was freaking. I was like, man, I wish I had bought a Super Nintendo.
Dude, I'm sorry. Like the Super Mario World, all the Super Marios, they just kept getting better. Funny little tidbit. Going back to the original NES, the Super Mario Brothers 2 was not Super Mario Brothers 2. It was Doki Doki World or something like that.
Yeah.
And they just reskinned it to be Mario, which is why it's such a very different game.
Apparently, I still love that game.
Oh, it's a great game. Like, don't get me wrong.
That game. Yeah.
Great game. Love the game. But it was just they reskinned, which is why it's so different from everything else, from all the other games, because it wasn't originally a Super Mario Brothers game. The thing is, there was a Super Mario Brothers 2 that came out, and they said it's too hard for Americans to play.
Yeah. Yeah. But then they released it as the Lost Levels. But you know what? I'm glad that occurred, where it was like a retooled different game that got called Super Mario 2, because that happened, it actually kind of expanded the lore.
It did. No, it absolutely did. Okay, I don't know how far you want to get into this, but you've heard the idea that all the Super Mario Brother games are actually plays. That they're not supposed to be real.
Okay.
That maybe you can maybe argue the first one's real, but that essentially all the games, particularly the later on you go, that all the games are actually reenactments of this story, and all the people, Mario, Koopa, Bowser, all of them are actually actors. And essentially they're doing it for the theories that they're actually doing it for Peach. But like when you get to Super Mario Brothers 3, you notice everything's a set piece. And at the end of the game, they all come out and there's a curtain that drops. Yeah. And it's the theory came out because people are like, well, hold on, why is it these people are, you have these characters doing these things, but then they're playing tennis together, or they're playing go-karts together. Like, what's going on here? I thought they were bad guys. It's like, well, first of all, it's a video game. Don't put that much thought into it. Secondly, it was always designed to be like Popeye, right? Like the old Popeye cartoons. It's always the same characters. They're always in sort of similar roles. But the thing is, these are all different stories. They're all self-contained events. They're not designed to play into one another. It's just the idea of, sort of that old school idea of how that's all it was ever supposed to be. But this theory evolved and said they're all actually plays. Like it's almost uber meta at that point, where they're plays. You're playing a game where you're playing an actor playing these events for someone else's entertainment, but it's entertaining you. Kind of a thought. Because the second one, exactly. It's like the second one, it's a dream, right? That's the whole point. That's just why it's so weird, is that it's a dreamscape that you're in, not the real world, so to speak.
Sorry, my dog needed attention like right now.
Oh, yeah. Trust me when I say so. I was in Utah Friday and Saturday. Got back Saturday night. My dog freaked the F out. We came home. I'm her emotional support human. So we went down to we went down to Glenrose today and just took her with us, and she's thrilled. So trust me, I get it. I'm her emotional support human.
Yeah. Toby's the same way. I'm like his pet. Yeah. So
you are dog. You are dog man Maryland.
Before we conclude, I want to ask you two questions. Give me your choices for your personal opinion as for the greatest NES games of all time, and then give me your personal opinions on the pound for pound greatest Super Nintendo games of all time.
Okay, hold on. Do they need to be NES exclusive?
No, they don't have to be.
Okay, because here's my thing. I want to say, since it did come out on the NES, I kind of want to say Wing Commander, but I feel like that's cheating. Because I feel like That's not in the spirit of the thing.
Also, you never actually
What's
played
the
the Super
question?
Nintendo port, so you don't know if it was how the port actually was translated over. So
Good point.
yeah.
Good point. Okay, so I'm gonna go with games that were native to
Because some of
Nintendo,
those they tried to port some games onto the Nintendo and Super Nintendo. Some of those
and they
ports
did
were
not.
god awful. Yeah,
It did not work out.
no.
Yeah, it did not work out at all. Um, see here. Okay, I this feels like a cheat. It's really hard not to say the original Super Mario Brothers. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
that's a perfect
remember,
game.
it's your personal pet preference. Don't try to
Yeah,
go
yeah,
for
I
the
know.
objective best. Yeah,
No, I know. But see, here's the thing. Like, as much as I want to say, like I loved Rygar. Again, I can't remember if it's 1946 or 1942 where you replay as the P-46 Lightning. I love that game. I love that game. I love Rygar. I love Castlevania. But it almost okay.
which
It almost
Castlevania,
feels.
1, 2, or 3?
Oh, the first one. No, straight up the first one.
Oh, I love me the third one, baby. Where you
Okay, I
get to
get
play
it.
as
Yeah, yeah,
Alucard.
yeah. I get it. But dude,
Yeah,
I love that first one. Um, So, okay, I'm gonna cheat and just say the original Super Mario Brothers. I'm sorry, that game is just there's no fat on that game.
yeah.
It's a perfect game.
In terms of which game personally affected me the most, I would say it would be
Mhm.
the first Super Mario Brothers. The
Okay,
game I think is objectively the best or the best Nintendo game would be Super Mario 3.
I'll give it to you. Yeah,
And
100%.
another one that I think was also one of my personal favorites, and I think it was yours, Jason McLean, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game. The port.
Yes,
Oh, I
yes,
bought that the day it came
100%.
out. The day it
Dude,
came out,
that
I
was
bought that.
great. I love that game so
I
much.
waited in line for that game.
Well, we talked about this. Like, it's
Yeah.
again, that's a good, solid, great,
It was a bummer
16-bit
you
game.
couldn't play that 4 players,
Yeah.
but I was so happy just to be able to play that game. Like, I would
Yep.
play it all day solo. I
Absolutely.
didn't give a
It was a
fuck.
great game.
Love
Love
that
that
game.
game.
God damn, I
Love
love
that
that
game.
game.
It was brilliant. Again, the only game that rivaled it was the X-Men game that came out at the same time as the pilot that they did.
Yeah.
They only made the one episode. I still love that stupid episode. Like, you can find it on YouTube. I'm
Yep.
sorry. That X-Men thing that they did was probably one of the best things Marvel ever did. Heck, I'd put that up against what they're doing now. It's still that good. But yeah, I love that game too.
A few honorable mentions for me for the Nintendo era, though, were Gunsmoke.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I love that game. I love that game.
Good.
You know, Contra Mega Man, of course.
Of course.
Those are those are going to be everyone's choices. I did love that original pro wrestling game. That game was a whole lot of fun.
I never
Do you remember playing Renegade? It was like River City Ransom.
Yeah, I remember it. I just don't remember.
That
Hold
one
on.
was.
Do you remember they had a RoboCop one? Was that
Oh,
SNES?
I owned the original RoboCop for the original Nintendo system.
Yes. Oh, okay. So
that game.
Dude, that was awesome.
Remember all the movie ports that they came out with back in the day? Like every time there was a movie, there was a Nintendo game that came out. Remember? Did you ever play
Judge
like
Dredd? Did you ever play the Judge Dredd game they came out with?
I
It
don't
was
think
just
I
a
played
side
that one.
scroller. It was a 2D side scroller. That's all it was. Still friggin' brilliant.
Did you play
Love
those
that.
Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street games ever?
No, I never did.
What about Back to the Future? Remember playing that game?
I don't remember playing that game.
Did you ever play Jaws?
Yes.
Some of these games were bad.
Yeah. Oh, they were terrible. There was a different.
I
one
actually beat Jaws.
Really?
I actually beat the original NES Jaws.
I think Jaws was one that we rented. I remember not caring enough to beat it, and so I think we only rented like once or twice. But I do remember that. It occurs to me in the 80s we had a lot of very questionable cartoon ports, for like Rambo was a cartoon. Really?
Yeah,
Conan?
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. Conan, I love that series.
I appreciated them as a kid.
Yeah.
I appreciated
as a kid.
seeing Rambo.
Yeah, they were cool. Again, they had a RoboCop cartoon that I loved, and then you grow up and you're like, And you think back, you're like, hold on.
But it's a rated R movie. Kids aren't supposed to be watching that.
Yeah, we should not be making these shows. Like, I understand. Like, again, I'm sorry, but the Conan, the animated series they came out with was freaking genius. The way they did that. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah.
I still think it was great, but it's like, as an adult, I'm like, these were all very violent R-rated films. Maybe
Jason, hold on to that. Kids. Hold on to that, because I plan on doing a future episode where you and I just discuss Conan the Barbarian. I'm going to do an entire episode just devoted to Conan the Barbarian. So
I will will rewatch that movie. I will rewatch that movie before we do it, because I love that. I love that movie so much.
Before we end tonight, give me your picks for the same question, but for the Super Nintendo.
Okay, here's my thing. Mm-hmm. By the time we got to the SNES, mm-hmm. I was a little bit older. I had already gotten into some of these other things. So the SNES never made the same impact like the original one did. The N64, actually, really the GameCube was the next one that really I played the ever-living crap out of, and that's because you had Ocarina of Time and again,
but I think of all the video game consoles that ever came out mm-hmm. in the history of the video game industry, in my personal opinion, the SNES is pound for pound the best console that ever came out.
I'm not going to argue with you. I think you're probably right. Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right.
The SNES had some straight up goddamn masterpieces on there.
Yes, they did. No, I completely agree with you. Yeah. For me, I don't think it made enough of it. It just may have been that time of my life where I'm like, I just had. Okay, so here's the thing. My mom was also going through cancer the first time mm-hmm. during that time, so that's also probably why none of the games kind of stood out. I just wasn't in a good, mentally. That wasn't really my.
Did you ever try going back and playing them on emulators and?
Not really, honestly.
Okay,
but see, again, having 3 kids has not been conducive for my video game playing.
Let me tell you a little background though. I told you I never played Super Nintendo, right?
Yeah.
But I actually wound up later in life going back because mm-hmm. I would have this little thumb drive. You would download those ROMs and you would have literally mm-hmm. every game in the Genesis or Super Nintendo library.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
On this little thumb stick. So mm-hmm. You just plug that into a USB and you just plug in your controller, right? And you could just play every game. So during my job in Korea, I was an English teacher, and for a number of years, I was teaching at the financial district. It was basically mm-hmm. Korea's version of Wall Street. And
right.
The people I were my students were all investment bankers mm-hmm. and shit, right?
Okay.
Because we were in the same building. It was those are the only people around. And so, mm-hmm. but because we taught just investment bankers and finance people, the schedules were all weird. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of downtime in the afternoons and the mornings, but you couldn't go home. You had to stay there in the office, but there was just nothing to do. So you're sitting there in your business suit with nothing to do. So I would bring that little USB thing with my controller, and me and my coworkers would sit around and play Super Nintendo all day.
Gotcha.
And so later on in life, I got mm-hmm. to go back and try. Okay, so one of the games that I never got to play as a kid, that as an adult, mm-hmm. I went back and played. Chrono Trigger. And when I played that game as an adult, I was like, mm-hmm. yo, this game a fucking masterpiece.
Yeah, I mean,
this game is so goddamn good. I mean, it holds up.
You're right. It is. Yeah, that's a game. That is a game that I have always enjoyed.
Chrono Trigger.
I don't usually think of it as an SNES game for some reason, though.
That's where it first came out.
You're right. I just don't think of it that way for some reason.
And
but you're right. But you're right.
Link to the Past, dude. I played that as an adult, and I was like, "Yo, this game came out when? Holy shit, this game is good."
Oh yeah, no, Link to the Past is brilliant. I think my problem is, again, because of everything that was going on mm-hmm. at the time, and because I never got a chance to kind of go back and replay those games. Because again, got married young, had 3 kids. Kind of ate up a lot of my time. But yeah, like I said, the Super Nintendo, I think you're right by saying it's pound for pound one of the best systems ever created. I never got married. 100%.
I never got married. I never had kids. So I
That you
had
know of.
lots of time.
Mhm.
I had lots of time. Lots of time to
Yep.
enjoy some games.
Yeah, there's a reason you don't have as many gray hairs as I do.
There is a reason. And there is a reason
Mhm.
why, even though I am technically older than you, I look probably like 15 years younger than you.
Yes.
It's because I never
Yeah.
got married, never had kids. That's the
It's the
secret to living a
mileage.
long life, people.
Ain't the years, it's the mileage. Okay, my
Yeah.
wife put this on her timeline, so I don't mind telling the story. You'll laugh, and I hate it. We were on the plane heading home Saturday, and they asked why we were in town, and I said, "Oh, we had a little, sort of a conference thing that we were going to
Hmm.
for the side business that we had."
Yeah.
And she said, "Oh, I thought perhaps you were retired." And I just, and she walked off, and I'm just like, "You effing." And my wife just busts out laughing because she's like, "That makes me the trophy wife. I've hit trophy wife status." And I'm like, just glared. I'm like, just screw all of you. Forget
It's the
this.
beard, Jason. It's the beard. You know what? I was thinking about this.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about if Jason McLean completely clean shaved his beard, I feel like you would look like a giant baby.
You maybe. Well, again, you know what? In 50 pounds, I may shave it off. But here's the thing: I don't think I've ever. I've since I've been married. I don't think I've ever not had facial hair. I think there was one time
You should give it
I
a
had to.
try. Hey, what's the worst thing there could happen? It'll grow back.
Well, it'll grow back. Yeah, no, it will. But like you said, I may do it in another 50 pounds or so.
No, you should do it tonight. Just
Mm-mm.
shave it off, man.
No.
Just shave it off. Did you really need it? It'll
Yes.
grow back. It's like you don't even know what you look
I
like without a beard. That's crazy.
I have. Well, so here's the thing though. Like when I was 16, I had a soul patch, dude. I've never since I've been 16, I've never not had facial hair.
I wonder what Tex would look like without facial hair. He would look like a completely different person.
Yeah. Oh no, he absolutely would.
Yeah.
I may go back to a goatee. When I get another 50 pounds or so, I may go back to a goatee, but we'll see. We'll just see how it goes.
Is your wife not even curious what you look like without a beard?
She prefers the beard.
How does she know? She hasn't seen you without it.
Well, we'll find out in 50 pounds, won't we?
All right. Well, anyway, folks, I hope you guys had fun listening to us. I think I will leave it off here. But yeah, Nintendo and Super Nintendo are awesome.
Great. Yeah, great systems.
Yeah.
Great systems.
And if you disagree, then you're a fucking stupid person, and I feel sorry for you. May you wallow in your own human filth. Goodbye.
Good night.